Hey guys, it's day 48. It's like 7:30 at night. I know have not made a video in a couple of days. In my last video I told you I had not been feeling very well and I was having trouble with my ear. I took a couple days off. I went to the doctor and I actually ended up getting a shot and having to take some other medication. She said that there's like crystallization or crystals behind your eardrums, and when they get out of place, it can cause you to have severe vertigo or nausea, vomiting, things like that, or you to feel off balance. And so I was having some issues with that. I had that once before, but I didn't really know what to do about it, or it went away in a couple of days. At first I thought I was just sick, like with the flu or something, but I could feel on this side, and it started to be on this side too, just an extreme fullness, like here behind my ear. So this time when I started feeling it, I started getting nausea again, but I didn't have the extreme vertigo that I had the last time. So I went ahead and went to the doctor, and she gave me a shot and told me to get this other medicine. So I've just been taking a couple days off and just kind of resting. I actually went to bed really early one day, like 7:30. And slept until the next morning, because after I got that shot, it helped me to get the fluid, because it was buildup of fluid, and so it helped me to get the fluid kind of down behind my ear, and I was so exhausted, and so I just slept. I actually got some sleep, I got some rest. I went to the chiropractor too, and she did an Epley maneuver, to try to like put things back into place and stuff. So I am feeling better now, but I just felt like I needed to give myself a break with everything that's happening, everything that's going on with life, and then having that issue with my ear. It just became overwhelming, and I started to feel a lot of anxiety. I started to feel like my nervous system was freaking out again. So I just decided to just chill. I do have something I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight. It was something that our pastor had talked about a couple Sundays ago, and I thought it was very interesting. It's something that I had not heard before. So I took down notes and stuff, and I did ask if I could get like reference material and stuff like that, because I wanted to investigate it a little bit further. So I wanted to go over kind of what I learned, what I heard, and then what I read about, just to kind of give you an idea of what it is that I learned, and then also kind of how it translates to Jesus. So it's from Matthew 25, the parable of the 10 virgins. I have my Bible here and my notes here, so if you see me looking away, that's why. But I was going to read to you Matthew 25, just that parable, so it's down to verse 13. And then I was going to go over what I learned from his message, from the documentation, the reference material and everything. So Matthew 25 says, "At that time the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. The foolish ones took their lamps but did not take any oil with them. The wise ones, however, took oil in jars along with their lamps. The bridegroom was a long time in coming, and they all became drowsy and fell asleep. At midnight the cry rang out, 'Here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him.' Then all the virgins woke up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish ones said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, our lamps are going out." "No," they replied, "there may not be enough for both of us. Instead, go to those who sell oil and buy some for yourselves." But while they were on their way to buy the oil, the bridegroom arrived. The virgins who were ready went in with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later, the others also came. "Lord, Lord," they said, "open the door for us." But he replied, "Truly I tell you, I do not know you. Therefore keep watch, because you do not know the day or the hour." And so you guys might know the parable. So there was 5 virgins that were wise. They took oil, extra oil with them for their lamps, and 5 were foolish. They didn't take any oil with them. They left and had to go try to buy some when the alert sounded that the bridegroom was there. The wise were ready and went in with him, and the door was shut. And the last verse says, "Therefore keep watch, because you do not know the day or the hour." So what I learned from the reference material and from the preaching that day was about ancient Jewish wedding traditions. So a lot of times Jesus used parables, stories, teachings from the traditions of that time so that people could understand what he was saying. Just like storytelling today, to get your point across, you might make references to what our culture knows today so that the people that are listening to you or hearing you can better understand what you're trying to say. In the same way Jesus did that in that day with the Jewish traditions. So in ancient Jewish wedding traditions, these were not like today's weddings. So they were grand affairs. They were celebrated by entire communities. And the Jewish population or the Jewish people didn't date to pick your mate or to pick your partner or to pick your husband or wife. There wasn't like a dating period, a courtship period, things like that. Most of the marriages were arranged by the 2 fathers involved, so the groom's father and the bride's father. And a lot of times, excuse me, they were arranged marriages to benefit the entire family. So in Jewish tradition, there was a few steps involved in a Jewish wedding. The first is to draw up a legal document called a ketubah. And it was a legal document, a marriage covenant that outlined the terms of the marriage. So what the expectations of the bride were, what the expectations of the groom were, and the benefits down to the tiniest detail. It also included what was called a mohar, which was the bride price, kind of like a dowry that was paid by the father of the groom to the father of the bride. And most of the time, the father of the bride gave her all or part of that dowry. And also it included something called matan, which is extra gifts given by the groom in addition to that dowry, that mohar. And this was considered a betrothal. So they detailed the legal document, the ketubah, outlining what the expectations were of the bride, what the expectations are of the groom, what the dowry or the mohar, the bride price, would be. and then any additional gifts that would be given by the groom to the bride, which is called the matan. After that legal document was drawn up, then they would share in a glass of wine, and the groom would pay the mohar. So they would share in a glass of wine, and the groom would pay the dowry for the bride. And they were considered, at that moment, legally betrothed or espoused to each other. So they were legally considered married, even though they weren't living together, even though they hadn't done a formal wedding yet, even though they had not consummated the wedding or the marriage. That legal document and them sharing that glass of wine and the groom paying the dowry price made them legally espoused to each other. So in all community, as far as the community was concerned, they were married. It was a sanctification of the bride, so it was setting the bride aside and apart so that she was taken off of the market. She was set aside specifically for that groom, and they were considered betrothed to each other. Then the groom actually returns to his father's house, and he goes there to build a property where they will live, to be a part of his family. And these communities can be 3, 4, 5 generations large, and they would all live together. But the bride would stay with her family, and the groom would go back to his father's community and start building a house for them. And that's kind of why there was a dowry paid to the bride's family. It was a bride price to compensate her family for their loss of losing their daughter, and in those days, losing the help that she would provide the family. But the groom would tell the bride before he left, "I'm going to go prepare a place for you, and I'll come again." The groom would leave, go to build the house, and prepare a bride chamber where the marriage would eventually be consummated. And all this time where the groom is back with his father's family, building the house, building the bride chamber, the bride is with her family waiting. So she would not see the groom again until he came back. She would not know when he was coming back. And she may have wondered at times when he was going to arrive, how long it was going to be. But she would keep an oil lamp lit every night, awaiting the groom to come back. Sometimes it took over a year for the groom to come back. The groom, nor the bride, nor anyone else knew when he was coming back, because the father had to, the groom's father had to give him the go-ahead to go get his bride. So the groom is with his dad's family, building up the house, building up the bride chamber, and getting everything prepared for the bride. And the father would be observing the progress, and he would give permission. He would tell the groom, "Okay, go get your bride." But the groom would not know when, the bride would not know when, the communities would not know when. It was up to the groom's father, whenever he was ready, to give the charge to go get her. So no one knew the day or the hour except for his father. There was no advance notice. Only the father knew when the wedding would take place. So when the father gave the charge, okay, go get your bride, it would inevitably be at night. And in the parable of the 10 virgins, it was at midnight. But it was at night because the bridegroom and all of the community had to work during the day. So they worked during the day. When the father gave the charge to go get the bride, he would get cleaned up and the processional would go with him and go to get the bride, but it would be at night. The town would be alerted. There were trumpets that were blown to alert the town that a wedding was going to take place, and most of the townspeople would join in the processional. The wedding ceremony would begin with all the people from the community, but the bride and the groom would not join the feast or the celebration at first. The groom would go get his bride the middle of the night while she had her oil lamp lit and bring her back to the father's community into the bride chamber and shut the door. And they would be in the bride chamber by themselves for 7 days. So the bridegroom takes the bride to the bride chamber and shuts the door. They don't come out for 7 days, but everybody else is partying. Like, everybody else is having the celebration. Everybody else is coming to the party because family members had to travel, all of that. But the groom and the bride were in the bride chamber for 7 days before they joined the celebration. Then, when they come out, there's a marriage supper. There's a marriage supper where they join everybody that's there. They have the feast, and then they're together forever. So that's what I learned about the Jewish traditional marriage and how much Jesus was using that to explain his process of him having to leave and him returning to us and us being able to live with him forever. So the first part, the legal document, the covenant that explains the expectations of the bride and the groom, the price that would be paid, like the dowry for the bride, and also all the extra gifts that would be given by the groom to the bride. That's the Bible. Like, we have our covenant. Jesus brought the new covenant to us. And the mohar, or the bride price, God gave his only son. He gave everything for us, for his bride. He gave his life, the highest bride price that anyone could have given. And he gave extra gifts to us. The Bible explains tons of gifts that Jesus gives. The gifts of the Spirit. The second, the drinking of the wine and accepting Jesus' proposal to be betrothed to him, set apart for him. Communion is taking that drink, the drink. I just want to get this scripture because something I found here. When Jesus was at the Last Supper, Mark chapter 14, verse 23, it says, "Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank from it. 'This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many,' he said to them. 'Truly I tell you, I will not drink again from the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new in the kingdom of God.'" So during the communion at the Last Supper, he gave them a cup to drink out of, and he said, "This is the blood of the covenant which I poured out for many, and I will not drink of it again. I will not drink again from the fruit of the vine," so the wine, "until that day when I drink it new in the kingdom of God."